Meanings of the Quran Volume 7. Sura Ibraheem, Chapter 14. By Allama Ahmed Parwez. Translated in English by Dr. Ejaz Rasool. Audiobook made by Abid Hussain. 3 Sura Ibraheem, Chapter 14. It is the proclamation of Allah, all-knowing and Rahim, that we have sent this code of laws to you so that you bring mankind from darknesses, zulmat, into light, nur, by this, 14:5, 33:43, and according to the law of their Rabb put them on the path proposed by that Allah who is possessor of power and balance. 14:1. The purpose of the Quran is declared to be that it will take mankind from darkness towards light by that path which is proposed by Allah Himself. Zulmat and Nur are two very important and prominent terms of the Quran which it has used frequently. For an explanation of this, refer to the meanings of the Quran, Volume 1. Every belief, ideology, and path which is against al-Haqq, the Quran, falls under Zulmat, and An-Nur is the Quran itself. But a few steps further on from here, the Quran has drawn attention towards a particular aspect of the struggle between Zulmat and Nur. In verse 14:5, it states that Moses was sent for this purpose, that by taking Bani Israel out of Zulmat, he should bring them towards Nur. Bani Israel were severely encircled by the darknesses of tyrannical dictatorial rule, devised by men, Pharaoh, by the holy trap of religious priesthood, Haman, and by avaricious blood-sucking capitalism, Qarun. To free them from the claws of subjugation and slavery and to take them into the open environment of freedom, so that they could live life under the obedience of the laws of their own Allah, was to be taking them from Zulmat to Nur. How the help of Allah and the Malaika is included on the side of the Mu'mineen in this struggle is explained in the words of verse 33:43, which is commonly called Darad, the meaning of which is given in the Meanings of the Quran, Volume 3. In explanation of this point, it suffices to state that the stage of exit from Zulmat towards Nur is traversed according to the program given by the Quran. If, despite claiming to possess the Quran, a nation cannot exit from Zulmat, humiliation, backwardness, subjugation, slavery, deprivation, helplessness, weakness, immorality, etc., then consider that it may be hanging this book around its neck or storing it adorned in high places, but that its practice is contrary to it, because it cannot be that a nation is acting upon the Quran and yet still remains entrenched in Zulmat. The meaning of Iznallah is the law of Allah. Here it is stated to be the path of that Allah who is Aziz and also Hamid, the one whose laws, possessing supremacy and power, produce praiseworthy results. Its manifestation is the grandeur of the universe. That Allah, in whose devised program, whatever is in the highs and the lows of the universe is all busily engaged in fulfillment. For those people who refuse to follow His defined path, there is severe ruin and destruction, such is the consequence of following the wrong path. 14:2. Who are these people? These are the people who, when there is a confrontation between the interests of the physical life, animal level, and life at the human level, the hereafter, they prefer the interests of the physical life, and hinder other people from coming to the right path, because this affects their vested interest, and make efforts so that some distortion is created in this straight path, and in this way they turn deen from one thing into some other entity. These are those people who are becoming prey to a great delusion. 14:3. Mention of these tricks of the religious clergy, i.e., to become an obstruction in the path of Allah and to create twists in a simple and straight deen, has been made at many places in the Quran. See its detailed explanation under verse 3:98, in the Meanings of the Quran, Volume 4. This ill conduct has not been confined here only to the religious clergy, but those people have also been included in it who give preference to worldly benefits over the divine values and who find greater attraction and enticement in the former. These people move away far from the path of the Quran. The issue being discussed from the start was about the Quran. It has been noted at several places in the Quran itself that it has been sent down in clear Arabic. The Quran being sent down in Arabic does not mean that it was only for the Arabs, and is only for them. It is the claim of the Quran itself that it is a code of life for the whole of mankind till the last day. But it is obvious that, despite this, it could be sent down in one language only, and it should have been that language which was of the first people who were the addressees of Rasulullah, and that was Arabic. The rest of the world will have to learn its language, in order to understand it. This is the only way to acquire knowledge, particularly knowledge of this book whose translation, in any language, cannot express the accurate meanings of the original text. See Meanings of the Quran, Volume 1. From this Quran, guidance will be acquired, towards the right path, and by abandoning it, individuals and nations will become lost. And whatever number of messengers we have sent they used to pass on the message of Haqq in the language of their own peoples, so that in this way they make the laws of Allah clear to the people. After this, the people were given the choice that, whoever wishes can adopt the right path according to the law of Allah, and whoever wishes can continue on the wrong path. The law of Allah is based on supremacy and wisdom. 14:4. Following this there is mention of the exit of the people of Moses from darknesses into light. In the same way we sent Moses with our code of laws so that he could bring Bani Israel out of the darknesses of death into the light of life and remind them of those historical events, I am Allah, in which the divine system had achieved supremacy and control. In these narrations there are great signs for those people who employ fortitude and steadfastness and desire that their efforts bear optimum results. 14:5. Since the account of Bani Israel has been covered in detail at various places in previous volumes, there will be no need to go into details here in relation to the verses being viewed, only the meanings will be noted aside from any particular point or a new issue. Note that the struggle and confrontation between two nations is mentioned here, and this is called the days of Allah, I am Allah. This is not a struggle between two nations but is in reality the struggle between Haqq and Batil, and because of this it is termed I am Allah. This is the fundamental difference between the history of Islam and the history of the rest of the world. The history of Islam will be the history of the struggle between Haqq and Batil, hence, this will be called I am Allah. Not only the history of the rest of the world but even the history of Muslims themselves, as a nation, will not be termed as I am Allah, it will also be the history of some nation just like the history of other nations of the world. After the first era of Islam, the era of the struggle between Haqq and Batil ended. This is why after this the era of I am Allah also no longer remained. Following this our history is not the history of Islam, rather it is the history of Muslims. Many difficulties become created by not keeping this differentiation in mind. The chronicles are of the era of sultans, no matter what country they may be from, and these are presented as being Islamic history in support of presumed Islam. As has just been noted, after the first era of Islam all of our history is the history of Muslims, after that, I am Allah were never even established to be witnessed. Whatever the number of books in the world that are written on the topic of the history of Islam, these are about the history of Muslims. The history of Islam has not been written up until today. Whenever it is compiled, its outline will be what Islam originally was, what shape it has acquired now, and how this change took place. This will be the history of Islam. In my book titled Sura Ibraheem I have made references to this aspect in the last chapter. It has been my desire for some time to write a detailed history of this, but I have not been able to find time for this yet due to other more important commitments. One fundamental difference between I am Allah and general history will also be that general history is merely a collection of events, or at the most a description of the physical and political causes of these events, but in the history of I am Allah there will be great signposts for treading on the successful journey of life for every steadfast and sharing nation. The beginning of this story happens like this. Remember, when Moses told his people that you should call to mind those favors of Allah, how he extricated you from the tyrannical claws of Pharaoh. Those people used to pursue you in order to bring severe chastisements on you. The worst of these punitive measures was that they used to humiliate the respectable individuals among your nation, and those who were devoid of self-respect and manliness, they would raise to the status of close courtiers. 249. By relieving you from this predicament, your Rabb brought about a great change in the life of your nation, and this was a great favor from him. 14:6. All these accounts have been covered before. After this, Moses said to them, and your Rabb made it very clear to you that the purpose of this great revolution is that those opportunities become created for you so that you could develop your potentials. If you did this and brought these abilities into correct usage according to our program, then whatever you have achieved, it will keep on increasing. But if you did not do this, and did not value whatever you received, then the consequence of this will be severe destruction and ruin. 14:7. And together with this, also made this matter clear that. Consequently, whilst making this clear, Moses stated to them that if you do not value these bounties of Allah, then not only you, but even if people in the whole world adopt a path of indifference, this will make no difference to Allah, it will be the people themselves who will suffer ruin. He does not need your gratitude. The whole universe is living proof of admiration of him, hence, whatever things he is asking of you are for your own good. 14:8. Then, according to the general style of the Quran, the circumstances and conditions of former Anbiya and past nations are used as a reminder. Moses also stated to them that, have you not heard what happened to those nations which have gone before you? The people of Noah, Ad, Hamid, and many nations who came after them, whose circumstances are not preserved in history, only Allah knows about them. Their messengers came to them bringing clear laws, but these people opposed them fiercely, and made every possible effort that their voice should not be heard, and their message should not be able to progress. They announced clearly to these messengers that we are not ready to accept the message you have brought, and we have absolutely no trust in the truth and success of the system towards which you invite us. Severe doubts and misgivings keep arising in our hearts about it. 14:9. In reply to this, these messengers said to them, do you have doubt about that Allah who has created the heavens and earth of this universe? Do you doubt the truth and success of the system which is devised by that Allah? He is only inviting you to the system so that the means of protection can be produced for you from that destruction which is about to descend upon you as a result of your crimes. And that in this way, for a defined period, you receive an opportunity to benefit from the blessings and prosperities of life. In reply, they used to say that you are a human being like us, hence, this claim of yours that you receive wahi from Allah is false. You wish to deter us from the obedience and worship of those entities which our forefathers had adopted, so that we adopt your way. Furthermore, they said, never mind these arguments and historical evidences, you say that this message of yours will definitely overpower us, then show it to us by making it overpower us and overpower in such a way that there remains no doubt whatsoever, we will then see what should be done. 14:10. In this verse one of the objections of the opponents which is noted is that you are a man just like us, then how can you be a messenger of Allah, that age-old objection. The other demand is this, show us some clear evidence. One meaning of this could be that you claim that your movement will overpower us, then manifest this supremacy to us, why are you causing a delay in this, and the other meaning could be this, that manifest to us some clear miracle. In response to this they stated, their messengers said to them that it is correct that we are human beings just like you, but Allah bestows Nubuwwat as a blessing on whoever He wishes from amongst His men according to His law of Mashi'at. As far as overpowering and supremacy is concerned, that can only be achieved according to the law of Allah. When that will be achieved we cannot say, but we are certain that it will definitely occur. We have full iman in the firmness of the law of Allah, and this is not just applicable to us, any people who have conviction in the truth of the law of Allah have complete and total trust in its firmness. 14:11. In the first part of the verse there is a reply to the objection that how can a man be a messenger? The answer is that Nubuwwat is not a question of the personal skill of a human being, this is bestowed externally from Allah. The second answer is regarding Sultan, help through the provision of power, and here, also, the meaning could be that of both overpowering and success and a miracle. The essence of the matter was that our trust is in the laws of Allah, and since these laws are immutable, we have complete certainty regarding our proclamations. Why is there complete trust and confidence in these laws? And how can this even happen that we should not trust in the strength of His law when He has unveiled the different paths, Subul, of life before us in such a clear way, so that every reality has become clearly manifest before us? It is only this trust in the strength of His law due to which our state is such that whatever hardships you direct towards us, we will bear them with steadfastness, and our stance will never falter because of these. When the law of Allah is so firmly established, then anyone who wishes to trust should place his trust in Him. 1412. An explanation of Subul, plural, rather than of Sabil has been covered in the meanings of the Quran, Volume 1. At another place it is said that whoever makes the effort to come in our direction, we guide him towards Subul, 29:66. The destination remains the same, which has been defined by Allah, i.e. the highway, Sirat-e-Mustaqim, going towards it is also only one, but according to circumstances the side roads, procedures, which ultimately merge with this highway can be different. But whether it is a side road or a highway, this journey is performed with the same confidence that these will all take us to the intended destination. The answer from them, the opponents, was always that same one which is the practice of every tyrannical and despotic being. At this, these people who used to reject the laws of Allah said to their messengers that, "We are not willing to hear more, either, quietly, accept our ideology, or else we will turn you out from our land." 1413. This is what they said, and in reply Allah said to His Anbiya. They imparted this threat to them. And their Rabb stated to them via Wahi, "Do not be fearful, we will destroy these doers of injustice and transgression, and after their destruction we will settle you in their land. This will not happen because we wish to take your side and have enmity against them for no reason. All this will take place according to our immutable law." And this is exactly what will happen in respect of every one of those nations that knows what the status is of the law of Allah in the universe and what the repercussion of going against this law is, and they remain wary of this repercussion. Consequently, those people did not accept through reason and evidence, and desired that the decisive matter should be manifested before them, and so it arrived. Its result was that every rebel and transgressor, who had opposed the law of Allah, remained a failure and was doomed. 14:13-15. There is a point which requires reflection. It is generally said that some messengers established a state while others were such that they did not receive an opportunity to establish a state and government. In the verses being analyzed, the discussion is about all of the messengers, and it is being proclaimed that following the destruction of their opponents, they were established in the land in their place. It is clear from this that after the destruction of the opponents, the messengers of Allah were established in their place and they achieved rule in the land. It is not essential that this rule should only be of a vast and large state, it could also be in a limited area of land. This evidence of the Quran is in any case a certainty, that following the destruction of their opponents, they were established in their place. If at some place history does not support this, then this is an error of history, and if the details of every messenger have not appeared in the Quran, then this is because the Quran is not a book of history. This is a book of guidance, and it only describes as much as is necessary for guidance. This principle should always be borne in mind, that whenever there is a contradiction between general history and some principle or explanation given in the Quran, then that which is given in the Quran should be declared as being based on truth. Our Iman is in the Quran, not in history. Two immutable principles have been noted here. The first is that those who are cruel, tyrannical, and treacherous, merciless, rebellious, dictatorial rulers, ultimately remain unsuccessful, and those people who remain careful about not disobeying the laws of Allah are successful. This is an immutable law of Allah. Though it takes time for these consequences to manifest, that this will take place is a certainty. This is for such as fear, 14:14, points towards an eternal principle and immutable law. Whoever acts in accordance with this will be its outcome. Secondly, having government and power, wealth, and status snatched from one is in no way a lesser punishment, but there is another even more severe punishment than this, and that is a life of subjugation and slavery, humiliation and degradation, i.e. from this defeat and failure it does not mean that this nation disappears from the face of the earth, it remains alive, and this life becomes a cause for even greater chastisement for it. It has been described at numerous places that the life of Jannat and Jahannam in the hereafter is a fact. We have Iman in this, but according to the Quran the life of Jannat and Jahannam begins right away in this very world. In the verses being looked at there is a reference to this very same life of hell in this world for subjugated nations. Just ponder what an instructive picture is drawn by the Quran of the one who is subjugated. It states, "And this failure and defeat was not temporary, instead, it was a permanent hell which became stuck to them. In this life of humiliation they received food and drink, but instead of receiving nourishment from this, it became an obstruction in the development of their human potentials. They were conscious of this life of humiliation, hence, they had difficulty swallowing this means of survival, but they had to consume it regardless. They could see the wherewithal of death all around them in every direction. And they desired that death should come to them so that they could become free from this hell, but even death would not come to them." 20:74, 87:13, rather, instead of death coming, there was an increase in the severity of this hell. Oof! How chastising and life-threatening is the hell of humiliation and subjugation. 14:16-17. This was the punishment of this world, the punishment of the hereafter will be even more severe than this. For the diet of real hell see verses, 44:49, 88:6-7. Here it is stated that in this life death will be seen coming from every direction, and yet they will not die. At another place it is stated that they will neither be alive nor dead. 20:74, 87:13. Iqbal states that leaving aside the life of subjugation, its demise also weighs heavy with thousands of lessons. There is a poem titled Qabr, grave, in Armagani Ejaz in which the grave bemoans, to its corpse, "O cruel one! You were a man enslaved in the world. I could not comprehend why my soul is so anguished, with your corpse my darknesses have darkened further, with your corpse the veil of my dignity is torn asunder, protect me. 100 times protect me from the corpse of a slave, O Archangel Raphael. O Allah of the universe, O my sacred life." This is the life of hell of the one who is enslaved and his humiliating death. It should be made clear that from a general point of view, if some other nation becomes the ruler of a certain nation, then that nation will be declared as being ruled. But from the Quranic point of view, if there is the rule of anyone other than the Book of Allah over a nation, then it is enslaved, regardless of whether that rule is by its own people. From this aspect all the independent nations of Muslims are existing in a continuous state of slavery for the last 1,000 years. In Islam the rule of men over men, no matter in what form it may be, is slavery and subjugation. Freedom is the name for the rule of only the laws of Allah. As Iqbal says, "Sovereignty only adorns that being with no partners, he is the only ruler, the rest are idols of Azir." About the deeds of these people the Quran states, "And this is not a matter confined only to them, whichever people set out on wrong paths by rejecting the laws of Allah, wherever they may be, and in whatever era, think of their deeds of life by the following analogy, e.g. like flimsy ashes which are whirled about on a stormy day by a gust of wind, and all the ashes disappear, having been blown about all over the place, and nothing remains behind. Since their deeds do not establish any concrete constructive results, hence they go to waste. Just reflect what can be a worse simile than this of the futile and fruitless endeavors of man." 14:18. Habit-e-amal, e.g. 18:105, is an important term of the Quran. For its meaning refer to the meanings of the Quran, Volume 4 and Volume 5. This is because the machinery of the universe is assiduously operating to establish constructive results according to the laws of Allah. Those deeds which are not in accordance with these laws will not be compatible with this program, thus will not be able to produce constructive results. In connection with this it is stated, this is because the map of their life is completely opposite to the map of the universe. By reflecting on the system of the universe, this truth will become evident that everything in it establishes constructive results. 1419. And the thing in which this ability does not remain vanishes, and its place is taken by such a thing which possesses this kind of ability. Hence, say to them that if your deeds do not produce constructive results, then you will not be able to fit into the map of the universe, and Allah's law of the universe will take you out and throw you away, and will bring a new creation in your place. And it is not at all difficult for Allah to do this. 14:19-20. The replacement of one nation with another nation is mentioned at many places in the Quran, 939, 47-38. But this is also not difficult for Allah, that if the whole of mankind sets out on wrong paths, then He will bring about a new creation in their place, as is clearly noted in verse 4:133. In the verse under view, it can be inferred as replacement of the nation being addressed, and also as replacement of the whole of mankind. By taking the meaning of the replacement of a nation, the meaning of the next verse becomes clear. At present, there is the interval of respite in which preparation for the final decisive confrontation is to take place. When this interval passes, and all will appear in the arena to confront the law of Allah, and it will be the time when the hidden results will appear in a tangible form, then at that time the weaker people, i.e., the public who always follow their leaders, seeing this destruction will say to their leaders that we used to follow you, will you today not produce some way to protect us from this destruction? They will respond that if we could see any possibility to protect ourselves, then we would also inform you about some kind of protection. But now the state is such that, we also cannot see any possibility of protecting even ourselves, hence, what can we tell you? Now that time has arrived in which whether we continue on our path or abandon it, the outcome will be the same. Now there is no way out from this destruction. 1421. For the wrangling between the leaders and their followers in Jahannam, refer to the verses noted in the above footnote. Also see the meanings of the Quran, volume 4 and 5. And after that Shaitan will say, and when the final outcome of this confrontation will have taken place, then Shaitan, i.e., the batil system of individual vested interests, according to which these people were living, will say that there was one thing which the system of Allah had informed you of, and so that matter having become a reality, has now appeared before you. And there was one thing which I had said to you, and the event has gone counter to it. And that reality is this, that I did not possess any such power that I could make you follow me forcibly. Whatever took place is only this, that I called to you, and you immediately assented to it, and in this way accepted my solicitation. Therefore, do not level accusations at me, accuse your own self. Now I am also shrieking and wailing, that I am done, and you are also howling and moaning, that you are destroyed, the whole society is lamenting, young and old all are clamoring, but, neither I can be of any help to you, nor can you save me. That path which you had adopted prior to this, in which you used to follow my laws and commands as if they were the laws of Allah, I am free from any responsibility for that conduct of yours, you had adopted this of your own accord. The truth is that whichever people rebel against the laws of Allah, for them is a severe reckoning and destruction. 1422. An account of Shaitan, and Iblis, has been covered frequently in previous volumes. Regarding their form, this has been described in detail in the meanings of the Quran, volume 2. Here, only one point requires clarification, that having attributed every wrong deed to Shaitan, we abrogate our personal responsibility and sit back. Since Shaitan is the name for our own rebellious emotions, the question of making someone else responsible for wrong deeds does not even arise. Here, in order to explain the meaning, by declaring shaitan to be a separate entity, this reality is made clear that shaitan is not responsible for wrong deeds, you yourself are. Man's rebellious emotions provoke him towards wrong deeds, they invite him towards this, and he becomes agreeable to this invitation. In any event, he himself is responsible for this, therefore he also faces the consequences himself. Contrary to this, regarding that nation whose life is lived according to the laws of Allah. Contrary to this, those people who, by having iman in the truth of the divine laws, act practically on his formulated program for the realization of potentials, they will be admitted into the Jannat of successes and prosperities, the springs of which will never experience autumn. And this will all happen according to Allah's law of Rabi'at. In this society of Jannat, the desire and endeavor of everyone will be that he should provide the maximum means for the life and security of others. 1423. These are two Jamaats, rather two ideologies of life, whose outcomes are these. This has been illustrated by a simile. Just reflect how Allah elucidates these two opposing ideologies of life and systems of life by an allegory. An example of the successful ideology of life is like that of a delicious fruit tree whose roots are extremely deep, strong, and established, and its branches are swaying gently in the open breeze of the heavens, i.e., it should be established materially within economic life, and together with this it should also be conversant with those lofty moral values whose fountainhead is beyond the physical universe. That tree, according to the law of Allah, keeps on bearing fruit continually in every era. In this way Allah makes abstract and ideological realities clear through tangible similes, so that people can understand these very well. 14:24-25. This example is very comprehensive, in which the core and foundation of Islam have been summarized. The secret of the life of nations is hidden in this ideology on the basis of which they establish the structure of their society. One ideology of life is that which obtains nourishment through both the physical universe and the divine values. By harnessing the universe, it acquires control over physical forces and then employs these forces according to the divine values, for the sustenance and nourishment of mankind. The life-giving and life-promoting effects of this ideology of life manifest permanently on a continual basis, i.e., all the while that some nation remains in action on this, it keeps on benefiting from its bounties. Regarding this, it is stated at another place that its shade is eternal as well as its fruit, 1335. The characteristic of the fruits of a Jannati, paradisiacal, society is that these are within the grasp of all, everyone can reach them and all are benefited equally by them. The fruit-laden branches of these trees can be envisaged as if they are in the laps of everyone, 69:23. Those fruits will automatically reach all members of the society, the fruits will be abundant and there will be no obstruction in accessing them. They will be available to everyone according to their need, 56:32-33. It is a society based in hell, the capitalist system, in which, though the fruits are abundant, guards are placed in the orchards so that no needy and deprived ones can come anywhere near them. This is described in Surah Al-Kalam, 68:17-24, and Surah Qaf, 18:32, through the simile of the orchard owners. So the fruits of the joyful ideology of life will be well established and eternal, and all human beings will also benefit from it without any discrimination whatsoever. This is the map of the Islamic system of life and the outcome of the Quranic ideology of life. Contrary to this, in opposition to the above simile, the wrong ideology and system of life is like a worthless tree, whose roots are rotten just at the surface of the ground so that whoever wishes can uproot it. The system which is not compatible with the ethical divine values can never have strength and stability. This is because if a nest is made on a fragile branch, it will be weak, and would not last very long. 1426. The difference between these two ideologies of life should be kept in mind. The state of the righteous ideology of life is that as long as a nation remains acting on it, this will continue to impart its fruits. The state of the evil ideology of life is that despite acting on this, the nation will remain deprived of the true pleasant fruits of life. The meaning of pleasant fruits is not only an abundance of physical means and resources but also the resultant peace and tranquility and contentment and security, which can never be acquired from a non-divine ideology. The Quran itself is the detail of the righteous ideology of life, and in summary the right to govern belongs to none other than Allah. This is a guarantee of the eminence and dignity of humanity. What is the state of a nation which adheres to the righteous ideology of life? In this way, according to this robust ideology of life, Allah bestows strength and establishes the Jamaat-e-Momineen in, both, their worldly life and the life of the hereafter. And those people who rebel against this system, their efforts go to waste. All this takes place according to the law of Mashiat of Allah. 1427. Because that nation remains in operation on this firm ideology, the robust ideology of life, it achieves solidity and strength in life, both in the life of this world as well as in the hereafter. This is the distinct attribute of the Quranic ideology of life, this world as glorious and brilliant, and the life of the hereafter also perennial and evergreen. All this does not happen purely by chance, it takes place according to Allah's law of Mashiat, which is eternal and immutable. This is the evidence of the strength of this ideology and the steadfastness of the nation which possesses it. But the pleasant ideology of life, Kalma Tayyiba, does not do this automatically itself. When men are acting on this practically, then it establishes its results. In Surah Fatir this profound reality is clarified in a very forthright manner. It states, though there is the potential to rise upwards in Kalma Tayyib, it is only the righteous deeds of men which cause it to rise. 35:10. This ideology of life neither becomes fruitful without human deeds, nor can human deeds be fruitful without an ideology of life. Cast an eye once more on what is declared in verse 8:17 of Surah Anfal. The meaning of the ideology of life defined by Allah and the cooperative hand of the one who is a mu'min will become clear. In contrast to this, the leaders of those nations which are following non-divine ideologies take them towards a hell of devastation and ruin. Keeping this law of Mashiat before you, cast an eye now on the history of worldly nations. Just look at the state of these leaders of nations who were provided with the conveniences and abundances of life. But they did not value these, employed these unjustly, and bringing the caravan of their peoples to such a market in which there was an environment of slump everywhere, deposited them there, where there was none to buy their saleable products, i.e., plunged them into a hell of devastation and ruin. And what an evil place this was in which they deposited their caravan. 1428-29. Just consider how the Quran has summed up human history in just a few words. The turbulence of a river is confined within a vortex. And from this it also becomes evident what the meaning of hell is in the life of nations. A life of misery, humiliation, deprivation, and devastation of a nation towards which its leaders have taken it. How did they do it? What they did was that they continued to take the name of the laws of Allah but declared non-divine laws as their equivalent, so that by diverting people from the path proposed by Allah, they put people on the other path. Say to these people that you have also adopted this path so that for a short period of time you can draw benefits from this, after that there is destruction and ruin for you too. 1430. It has been explained earlier that the pleasant ideology of life is there is no ilah but Allah, the meaning of which is that other than the law of Allah, man is not the subject of anyone. By this he achieves the status of being human, this is what is known as Tawheed. Those who hold batil ideologies declare men as also being rulers, this is shirk which is a cause for the debasement of being human. Neither by having iman in Tawheed is there any benefit to Allah, nor does any harm approach him through shirk. Their connection is related to the benefit and harm to man himself. Through shirk some worldly benefits are achieved for a time, but its end is nothing other than ruin. That ideology as a result of which man falls from his stature, what can its outcome be other than humiliation and ruin? In contrast to this, it is stated about the possessors of Kalma Tayyib. In opposition to them, Say to these servants of mine who have iman in the truth of my laws that they should not be apprehensive of the fact that the system of batil is imposed everywhere, thus how to extricate from it. Establish the system of salat, and whatever we have bestowed on them, whether these are their latent potentials or physical means of sustenance, they should keep expending these according to need and opportunity, openly and secretly, for this lofty objective. Now is the opportunity for this. If this time slips away, then it will become difficult, because this is not that thing which we can purchase whenever we wish from the bazaar, or that can be requested from a friend as a favor. This is achieved during the window of opportunity through endeavor and sacrifice. 1431, see also, 2:254. Its connection is with the law of requital. For further elucidation refer to the meanings of the Quran, volumes 2 and 3. Though this topic, the law of requital, is dispersed throughout previous volumes, this is the focal point of Quranic teaching and invitation. On this lies the foundation of the system of Rabu'iyat, which encompasses the whole of the universe. In this way that system of Rabu'iyat will become established in the human world, whose means and resources have been made available in the external world from the beginning. Allah created the highs and lows of the universe for this purpose. He sends down rain from the clouds through whose irrigation various kinds of fruits grow, so that these can become a means of sustenance for you. He has subdued boats, and ships, for you so that these can float around on the oceans according to his law. And has also subjugated rivers for you, so that you can make use of these for irrigation. And he has also tied the moon and the sun in the chains of laws. These are continuously rotating according to a defined procedure. Furthermore, he has also made the day and the night subject to you. 1432-33. This system of the universe is busily functioning so that the necessities of life can keep on becoming available to mankind. In this way, according to his law of Rabu'iyat, he has provided you with all that you need for your nourishment. 55:29. This means of sustenance is so full of variety and abundance that if you start to count it, you will not be able to encompass it. We provided this means of sustenance for the universal nourishment of the whole of humanity, but by seizing possession of it, men began such interventions that each began to snatch the rights of others, and whatever fell into anyone's hands, he kept it with him. 1434. Allah had dispersed this means of sustenance throughout the world without any boundaries or limits, but human beings took its distribution into their own hands, as a result of which all the imbalances came into existence. In this way, meddling by powerful men at the top disturbed the system of Rabu'iyat. In order to stop this injustice and coercion, acquisition and possession by rebellious and powerful men, Allah began the process of sending Anbiya so that the system of Rabu'iyat could be established through their hands. Among them Ibrahim has a particular status because he laid the foundation of a system for universal mankind by exiting the local geographical boundaries whose center was the Kaaba. The illustrious story of Ibrahim has been covered in previous volumes. Here, there is mention of that supplication of his which he had prayed for after the completion of the construction of the Kaaba. In order to halt and stamp out these interferences and imbalances of rebellious men, Ibrahim laid the foundation of the system of Allah, and for this he established a center. 2:125. And in relation to this he prayed to Allah to make this habitation, which I have declared as the center of your system, such that it becomes a haven of peace for those people who are victims of rebellious and coercive forces, and to bestow on me and my offspring, who will be defenders of the center, that ability so that we can stay away from each and every one of those deeds and things, asnam, which become an obstruction in the path of obedience of your law and may make us indifferent from you. 1435. Sanam, plural asnam, is commonly translated as idol, but its meaning is wider than this. Imam Raghib writes that every one of those things which makes man indifferent to Allah and turns his attention away in some other direction is called sanam. Furthermore, he has stated that the supplication which Ibrahim had made asking Allah to keep me and my progeny protected from this, that we might embrace obedience of asnam, this meant the pursuit of these kinds of desires. 1959, because he could never have feared that he and his progeny will start worshipping idols. If we look at it from this respect, then we are all of us followers of Islam. By La ilaha is not only meant the smashing of idols of clay and stones, but is also the discarding of all desires, objectives, vested interests and inclinations from the abode of Islam, the heart, which become an obstruction to acting on the path of the divine values. Ibrahim had also made the same supplication for us because, as followers of the millet of Ibrahim, we are also included in his progeny in a manner of speaking. The meaning of Islam as noted above is clarified in the next verse when it is stated, "O my Rabb! These non-divine forces and allurements have misguided many people, and this supplication of mine which I have made to provide the ability to my progeny to tread on the righteous path is because, if they follow the right path, then they will be deserving of the custody of the center of the system. If they do not tread on this path, then just by being my progeny will not make them eligible for this." 2:124. In this system the very criterion for ours and others alters. My own will be the one who follows this maslak on which I tread. For the one who transgresses against it, then he has nothing to do with me, even if he is from my progeny. 60:4, although the arrangement for his protection and nourishment will be according to your physical law in exactly the same way as it is for other people, because your physical law is equal for everyone, kafir and momin alike. 1436, see also, 1115. It is not idols made of clay and stone which misguide people, rather it is the religious clergy who teach obedience to that which is non-Allah, and in this way stand as an obstruction in the path leading to Allah. In the next part of the verse it is stated that mine is he who follows me. This is the basis and foundation of the two-nation ideology. He is from among us who obeys us, not the one who has some kind of ethnic or family relationship with us. The complete life of Ibrahim is a living tafsir of this eternal principle. The severing of the connection with his father, dissociation from his tribe, dissociation from close family and relations, dissociation from his nation, to the extent of the severing of relationships with every one of those individuals or relations who was an obstruction in the path of Allah. 60:4. After that, he stated in the court of Allah, "O our Rabb, I have, for this supreme objective, settled some part of my progeny near your respected house. This has been called your house because by being above all individual associations, it is a common legacy of peace for universal humanity. It is located at such a place where there is not even a sign of any farming roundabout. All this arrangement I have made so that my progeny establishes a system of salat, i.e., that system in which all people obey your laws. So, O our Rabb, do this, despite all these apparently unfavorable circumstances, that the hearts of mankind become inclined towards them. Furthermore, provide the means of sustenance for them from the produce of the land." 2:126, so that, by becoming contented and free from economic needs, they work for the attainment of this objective with such dedication and intensity, their efforts are worthy of full fruition. 1437. Regarding the supplication for rizq, sustenance, see the meanings of the Quran, Volume 3. This verse also appears there. A couple of further points of importance also appear in this verse. It is stated that 1. Peace and security should remain established in this town, and 2. They should feel secure from the point of view of economic needs. What is all this for? So that they can establish salat. It is obvious that if from this it only meant the reading of namaz, as is customarily stated among us, then these conditions are not required for this. Namaz can be read in any circumstance. In fact, people read namaz with greater devotion and intensity when in a state of fear and poverty. From this is meant the establishing of the system of Allah. The consequence of this system will be that the hearts of the people will be drawn towards it. And you will see mankind entering the deen of Allah in masses. 110:2. And the next point is that they will become grateful, shukr. The meaning of shukr, which is taken among us to say, O Allah, your shukr. It is obvious that these conditions are not required for this either. For the meaning of shukr, see the meanings of the Quran, Volume 2. From the verse being examined, this meaning becomes elaborated further as well, i.e., so that they acquire peace and tranquility and prosperity and abundance, so that their hard work for the lofty goal in pursuit of which they are striving with absolute determination can produce full results. If there is neither peace in society nor security from the aspect of sustenance, then man cannot do anything with the total concentration of his heart, hence, his efforts cannot bear results. O our Rabb! Whatever is in our hearts and whatever we manifest, all is evident to you, and this is not only applicable to us, there is nothing in the highs and lows of the universe that is hidden from you. This is because you also know that the system whose beginning is being established on this small scale through our hands, what its future is going to become. 1438. Together with whatever was entreated for the future, gratitude was also offered in the court of Allah along with this for the blessings which were bestowed on them in their past circumstances. It is stated, I am very hopeful about the future of this because I have seen all this with my own eyes that, despite unfavorable circumstances, with your blessings all that takes place which man cannot generally have any expectation of, e.g., in my old age, when I was not hopeful of any progeny, you bestowed sons on me like Ismail and Ishaq, who are living evidence of your hamd and blessings and awe. Therefore I have full certainty that my Rabb will definitely grant acceptance to my entreaty. 1439. And the supplication was the same as before, but in view of its importance it is presented again. O my Rabb! Make me and my progeny capable for this so that the system of salat is established through our hands. O our Rabb! Fulfill this wish of mine. 1440. And together with this, O our Rabb! Furthermore, this is also my petition that if some minor errors are committed from me, my parents, 9:114, and other Mu'mineen, that we remain protected from their ill effects on the day that results manifest themselves. 1441. Regarding his supplication seeking protection for his father, see the meanings of the Quran, Volume 6, under verse 9:114. As we know, the Quran does not narrate these stories as historical details and events. The aim from this is to provide a lesson and to admonish, and to explain and warn. The purpose for which the account of Ibrahim is mentioned here again has been made plain in the next verse in this way. With these wishes and supplications, Ibrahim commenced the system for the completion of which, O Rasool, you have now risen up. Therefore, do not think that we are unaware of whatever these unjust and rebellious people are doing. Our law of requital is witnessing all, but this is a time of respite. When the time for the manifestation of consequences arrives, then seeing the destructions becoming unveiled before them, their eyes will remain staring, their eyeballs will pop out. 1442. After suffering a defeat in the arena of life, their condition will be as follows. The chaos will be such that they will be running around senselessly without looking around, all will leave their companionship, so much so that, their gaze will not return to their own selves, their hearts will become devoid of hope, emotions of despair will engulf them severely. 1443. At that time these people who are adopting such rebelliousness will be ruined and disgraced in this way. O Rasool! Make these opponents aware of the severe punishment of this kind of awful destruction. At that time these unjust and tyrannical people will implore profusely, Allah, O our Rabb! Give us just a little respite, so that we may accept your guidance and will follow your messenger. They will be told that before this time you used to swear repeatedly that there can be no decline in our powers, now witness what is decline, and how does it arrive. 1444. They will be reminded that you had inhabited the places of these people who had done injustice to themselves. We had informed you about their circumstances, so that you come to know what our law of requital does to these kinds of people. Furthermore, with many different examples we had made the truth explicit to you. 1445. And also this. We also informed you about this, that these people carried out various trickeries in opposition to the system of Allah, such plots by which even the mountains would have been shaken from their place. But none of their plots was able to be successful before our law of requital. 1446. O Rasool! Announce to them that, hence, you should not remain in this delusion of yours that Allah will go against His commitments. Every commitment of His will definitely be fulfilled, to His messengers, who have brought this message. This is because He is the possessor of supreme powers, and according to His law of requital every wrong deed is surely punished, no one can run away anywhere from it. 1447. For an explanation of the revenge of Allah, see the meanings of the Quran, Volume 4. The Quran has summed up the revolution which would materialize after this confrontation in 4 words in such a comprehensive and beautiful way that aesthetic and intellectual sentiments are both elated by it. It is stated, O Rasool! Say to them that through this invitation of mine such a revolution will come that, this earth will become another earth, the sky will be a different sky. This earth and sky will transform, in place of the present society a new society will emerge, and all the people will appear before Allah clearly and distinctly, in front of whose law no one else's law can operate, and who is possessor of supreme powers and control. 1448. How comprehensively the map of the potential revolution in society is drawn, i.e., from this there will be no vestige left of the previous system of batil. This will be the law part, in its place the new system of haqq will be established, this will be the ilah part. In other places, in connection with previous anbiya, it was stated that it was turned upside down, 11:82, 15:74. But by the revolution which occurred through the hands of Rasulullah, the final Nabi, this earth was transformed, the sky was transformed. If you inquire from non-Muslim historians of the world, they will also tell you how the earth and heavens changed as a consequence of this revolution. This was not a patchwork, it was a new construction, it was not mending and readjustment of the old, it was replacement of the old with the new. The Quranic revolution does not compromise or make a deal with the other society, it uproots it from its very foundation and in its place establishes an absolutely new society. According to La ilaha, it is necessary to uproot and throw away even the very bricks of the foundation of every system based on lies. This is what happened during the very first revolution of the Quran. This is what that nation has to do which becomes determined to launch the Quranic revolution. In a batil society the question of reformation simply does not arise, it cannot be reformed, it has to be replaced, only then does a new society become established in its place. Those people who expend futile efforts through reformations to make a batil society Islamic, their pursuits can never come to fruition. As a result of this revolution a new earth will emerge in place of the former earth, and a new sky in place of the previous sky. That earth which will wake up shining with the light of the Rabi'at of Allah, 39:69. On that day you will see that these criminals, who are championing transgression like this at this time, will be, like prisoners of war, being shackled in chains. Their armor which they had worn for their protection, by sticking to their bodies like molten tar, will become a castigation in their life, their faces will be scorched from the flames of war. 14:49-50. This will not be as an injustice and coercion, as happens in worldly revolutions, but will take place in accordance with the law of requital. All this will take place in order that, according to the law of requital of Allah, every individual can be recompensed for the actions he has carried out. The reality is that His law does not delay even a moment in the accountability of deeds, it happens to be very swift. 1451. After outlining all this it is stated that all these facts and events are described so that 1. Humanity can reach its desired destination in light of these. 2. People become aware how devastating is the consequence of the wrong path of life. 3. That they come to fully comprehend this truth that in the universe power and control is only Allah's, not anyone else's. And 4.
Those who possess intellect and vision should bear these realities in mind, which are generally ignored, and learn lessons from them. 1452. The meaning is making itself very clear, hence, there is no need to add anything further to it.